Welcome to the Healthy School Food Summit, brought to you by the Coalition for Healthy School Food and PlantPure. I'm your host, Ron Gandiza. In this session, we are honored to have with us Susan Levin. Susan is Director of Nutrition Education for the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, or as we call it, PCRM, a Washington, D.C.-based nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting preventive medicine, especially better nutrition and higher standards in research. As Director of Nutrition Education for the Physicians Committee, Susan researches and writes about the connection between plant-based diets and a reduced risk of chronic diseases. She has published over a dozen articles in peer-reviewed journals, and she's also earned a specialty certification in sports dietetics from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. Welcome, Susan.
Thanks for having me. It's very exciting.
Well, we're really, of course, happy and pleased to have PCRM as part of the summit because PCRM has such a great reputation for speaking and really championing the efforts in nutrition across, not just in the U.S., but really worldwide. It's set a standard in terms of making sure the government is held accountable to the public.
Well, it's very nice of you to say. Yeah, well, as like you said, we're a nonprofit here in Washington, D.C., so we're in the heart of the federal government. So we're in a good position, literally, to do some of the marching onto the hill to get some of these changes implemented in federal food programs.
Well, for the audience here that may not know too much about PCRM, can you give a little more background information?
Sure. So we've been around for, I guess, 32 years now. And we do a lot of research and public education around nutrition and how nutrition plays a role in the prevention, ideally, of chronic diseases, but certainly in the treatment and even reversal of certain chronic diseases. We conduct clinical research trials here in our office. We write a lot of articles to get published, whether they be reviews or publishing the findings of our clinical trials. We have a lot of public literature that we make available online in hard copies for people to access for free. So we really try to get this information out there and make it as accessible to everyone as possible.
Well, I understand that PCRM now has initiatives in the school systems to try to help schools to get rid of processed meat to provide healthier options for kids. Can you tell us more about those?
Sure. So a little background about processed meat products. Processed meat products are products that have been altered in some way through preserving, salting, smoking, curing, alters taste, color, and certainly its shelf life. So those products, most commonly things like hot dogs, pepperoni, sausage, deli meats, we're trying to educate people about the risks around those products. It's been a decade now that the American Institute for Cancer Research, the AICR, has come out with a huge report that concluded, after looking at many, many other studies that have been published over the years, that processed meat products are linked to cancer, specifically colorectal cancer, or most significantly colorectal cancer. So we've known that for a really long time, that there's no safe amount, and this is their conclusion, no safe amount of processed meat products to consume when it comes to the risk for cancer, colorectal cancer. And more recently, a couple of years ago, less than 2 years ago, the World Health Organization came out with basically the same conclusion, that processed meat products are carcinogenic. They are cancer-causing products. And red meat was also defined as a probable carcinogen, whereas processed meats were definitively carcinogenic. So we have so much data and research to show that these products will and can cause cancer. But so few people seem to know. They might know that, oh yeah, hot dogs aren't a health food, but they're okay in moderation, or for my kids, it's a fun food. Well, there's nothing really fun about something that's carcinogenic. And as an adult, you can maybe make that decision for yourself as long as you're informed and educated that that's something that you want to consume. But I really would caution adults, once they know that information, is this really something you want to put inside of your child if we know it's going to lead to cancer. So yes, PCRM has been really focused on processed meat products in general, but certainly in the school cafeteria, because you might think, well, it's rare. If it is a fun food, why would it be served often? But it's served incredibly often. If you look at any school lunch menu, and you can go online and look at your local menus, you can look at any school district menu and see that processed meat products are peppered throughout. They're pepperoni pizzas, hot dogs, deli slices. But breakfast is probably the most egregious menus you'll see, with sausages, bacon, hams that are served throughout. So this is very disconcerting. And we take it upon ourselves here to, when asked or when solicited, we will educate food service directors about vegan meal options, what works, what qualifies as a suitable food under the National School Lunch Program guidelines. We've done pilot programs in schools looking at how to improve the meals, and even soy milk versus cow's milk on the lunch tray. We have webinars for education. We support concerned parents, teachers, food service directors if they want to make changes in the cafeterias. We try to work on a federal level to improve the child nutrition reauthorization acts, trying to make the laws more focused on nutrition and support that aspect of school foods versus maybe more industry interested aspects of it. We have something called a Golden Carrot Award. So if a school's doing a great job, they can nominate themselves. That's a financial reward that we give out for those schools, plus a lot of positive media coverage. And what school doesn't want positive media coverage about their lunches? We've collaborated with the Coalition for Healthy School Food in the past, which I think we've had some successful efforts there. And then we petitioned the USDA about processed meat products. And currently we have a lawsuit actually in California to get processed meat products off of their school lunch lines in a couple of different districts, including Los Angeles.
With so many schools having processed meats, as you said, not just in one part of the menu, but they have it for breakfast and lunch, so much a part of it pretty much every day. What are some of those alternatives then that you recommend to schools to use?
Well, realistically, we have a lot of menu recipe ideas that you can incorporate that are at minimal cost. Kids don't necessarily miss meat if you have like a bean chili, for example. There are some specialty products that you can buy, like a vegan sausage replacement or vegan hot dogs. And certainly if a school wanted to go that route, that's great. And there are companies who are making products that qualify for the guidelines that you need to meet within the National School Lunch Program. And I think that's going to become more popular as plant-based eating becomes more popular, and certainly as schools start to realize or they're forced to realize that these products are not what parents want their kids to eat. So I think you'll see more of that. But in the meantime, we have, as do other organizations, we have so many recipes on our own website that are meant for schools to substitute in more healthful.
How many schools then do you see really implementing a program like this? Because I know a lot of parents say, well, it's not going to change. This is such a hard thing for schools to swap out because of the popularity of processed meats such as pepperoni or hot dogs. Do you see more and more schools taking up the challenge?
Yes. And one way we can judge that is by monitoring these Golden Carrot Award applications and seeing how many we get in and what schools are doing. And certainly the media coverage that schools get that are doing this on their own for whatever reason, parents advocating, kids advocating for change in their schools. And then we read about it. We may nominate a school too sometimes, like that school is doing a great thing. We want to recognize them. So I think it's happening more and more. In terms of processed meat products becoming taboo, for whatever reason, people are just very resistant to changing their menus, even if the science is there behind the risk associated with certain products. As a dietitian, I think it's really important to also remember that popularity of certain products shouldn't outweigh the nutritional and health aspects of those products. I understand that a child might rather have chicken nuggets and French fries and ice cream for lunch. That doesn't mean that's a good idea for that child. And as a school, I think it's absolutely imperative that they set the standard for how children should be eating. And yes, a child will reject, possibly, especially if given the choice between junk and health. They might not have all the resources and knowledge they need to know why they should be choosing better items. But again, we should be making sure that we're educating, especially within the walls of a school, educating kids about the better choice. So I just don't buy into this, kids aren't going to eat it, kids aren't going to buy it. Maybe that might be the learning curve for all of us, but that's our job as school officials, as food service directors, as dietitians, is to get kids to eat healthfully, not necessarily, and to learn to like those foods and to learn why it's important to eat those foods, not for that immediate gratification of, are you happy right now? Is this what you want right now? Because sure, every kid, and probably a lot of adults too, would eat, drink a milkshake over drinking water, but we need to be educating. We need an ideal scenario within a school.
So Susan, if people need help and want to reach out to PCRM, where should they go?
Well, a great first step is to go to our healthysschoollunches.org website. And from there, you can find out how to contact us. You'll find 5 easy steps to get started right now, because the foot soldiers here are really the ones who are going to make the change. And those are the people in the communities. Those are the parents, the students, the teachers, the concerned citizens who want to see change in their school lunch line. And we have resources down to form letters just to get the conversation going that you can use or tweak, just use as a guideline, but just to get started. And again, we're here to help. We're here for guidance and expertise. Take your phone call. We'll do whatever we can, but we do need people to be active in their own communities to make this effort really manifest throughout the country.
And I really love Dr. Barnard, of course, because for those who don't know, Dr. Neal Barnard is the founder of PCRM, and he's also a member of the board of advisors for PlantPure. So,
okay, yeah.
And so what I'd like to do is add, he did a summit for us, or he did a video for our PlantPure summit last year that talked about the science of plant-based nutrition and its importance. So I'm going to add that as well to educate parents and anyone else who's watching this, and add that to the summit. But we really appreciate the hard work. We know you don't do just a little, you do a lot across the board in terms of health, but your efforts for kids, especially, of course, with the Coalition for Healthy School Food, working with you too, we really appreciate the hard work you put in for the next generation.
Well, thank you so much. And we have a great team here, and we're definitely concerned, and especially about kids, because they are such a vulnerable population. But it's very powerful, right? They're going to be the ones that grow up and set the standard. So we have a lot of hope riding inside that population.
We appreciate that. And for anyone else who wants to learn more about the efforts of the Coalition for Healthy School Food, please go to healthyschoolfood.org. We'll have the websites that Susan also mentioned, not just PCRM.org, but the healthysschoollunches.org website. We'll have that listed as well, so you can just click on that. And again, thank you for your time and efforts in promoting healthy school lunches.
Hi, this is Dr. Neal Barnard, and today we are going to talk about the power of nutrition. And for me, the world completely changed back in 1990. And that was the year that Dr. Dean Ornish, a name that you know, really showed something that was, at the time, completely unexpected. He wanted to see if heart disease, could be reversed. In other words, could that ugly-looking artery that you see at the bottom of your screen that's filled with atherosclerosis, could it look more and more like that healthy artery at the top of your screen? He did what we call a randomized trial. He split people into 2 groups. One group got a lifestyle intervention. The other got usual care. These were heart patients whose usual care meant going to the doctor, having cholesterol medications, that kind of thing. So the experimental program had 4 parts. vegetarian foods. And why would we want vegetarian foods for a heart patient? No cholesterol, no animal fat. Okay, makes sense. Secondly, a half-hour walk every day. And this is not a trudge. This is a half-hour brisk walk. Try to manage stress and avoid tobacco. That was the whole program. And the reason that he didn't say switch from beef to chicken was if you look at beef, the leanest beef is about 29% fat as a percentage of its calories. The leanest chicken is not much better at about 23. Now, fish vary. Some are lower, some are higher, but fish all have cholesterol. They all have a fair amount of saturated fat in addition to whatever other fats they may have. But broccoli and beans and rice and sweet potatoes are very different. Not only do they have zero cholesterol, but they don't have much of any fat, and they don't really have the saturated fat that you see in animal products. Now, a year later, when you compared the experimental group and the control group, the difference was day and night. The people following the vegetarian diet and the other healthy lifestyle changes, their total cholesterol dropped 24%. Their LDL cholesterol, you know what I'm talking about, bad cholesterol, 37% down. And then when everybody went into the angiogram suite, and they had an angiogram, it's an x-ray of the heart that shows the tiny little trickle of blood getting through coronary arteries. Their arteries were actually opening up so much that you could see a measurable difference, a reversal of heart disease in 82% of patients in the first year. And that made medical history. But then what counted even more was, do you die? Do you have a heart attack? Do you need to be in the hospital? And in the control group compared to the intervention group, again, day and night, the people following the healthy diet and lifestyle did dramatically well. So my team, my research team here in Washington, decided to see, would this diet work for people who don't have serious heart disease, but they just want to see if they'll get healthier? In particular, will they lose weight? We brought in a group of people, and we gave them 2 rules. No animal products and minimize oils. So no animal products means no meat, no dairy, no eggs. And minimizing oils means don't take that bottle of olive oil and go glug, 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 glug all over your pasta. And we asked people not to change their exercise patterns. And it was a 14-week study. And the kinds of foods that we encourage people to eat are from what we call the power plate. Fruits and grains and legumes. Legumes are beans, peas, lentils, foods that grow in a pod, and also vegetables. So fruits, grains, legumes, vegetables. And what a typical day's meals might look like would be blueberry pancakes with butter. Nope, not with butter, but they could have syrup or jam or something like that. Oatmeal topped with cinnamon and raisins or sliced strawberries or whatever you might want. Half a cantaloupe or the whole cantaloupe. We're not counting calories with this kind of diet. Now for dinner, when my linguine arrives, it won't be topped with the Alfredo sauce. No, it'll have artichoke hearts and seared oyster mushrooms or something like that. So no calorie counting, no carb counting, and instead we're just following a healthy vegan diet. At 14 weeks, the average person had lost 13 pounds, 2 inches off their waist, and we measured something called insulin sensitivity, which is how well the body handles glucose. And we found that it was measurably better as well. So why? How is it that this could work? Well, the first thing is very simple. Fiber tricks the brain. Fiber, plant roughage, leads to satiety. Now, it tells the brain that you're full. So if you think about beans or vegetables, they have roughage in them. And that roughage, that fiber, has effectively no calories, but it's quite filling. Now, Velveeta, unfortunately, is not from a plant. It has no fiber whatsoever, and it doesn't fill you up the way plant foods do. But there's something else called the thermic effect of food. Or in a more simple terms, it's the after-meal burn. Here's what I mean. Our research participants came into the laboratory. It was first thing in the morning, and their metabolism was at the lowest that it was going to be all day. We then gave them breakfast, and we measured their metabolism as they started to absorb the nutrients. And the way you do this is they're lying under a see-through canopy that goes over their head and shoulders, and we're measuring how much oxygen they're taking in, how much carbon dioxide they're putting out. And with some pretty simple arithmetic, it shows us what their metabolism is, how fast they're burning calories. Well, when you have that breakfast, your metabolism starts increasing, and you see that in this curve. It's higher than it had been before, and it stays high for about 3 hours or even more after the meal. But then, after the people had been doing the vegan diet for 14 weeks, we brought them back into the laboratory. We did the test again, and here's what we found. Their after-meal burn was higher than before. Not a lot, about 16% higher. But let's say I'm burning calories 16% higher for 3 hours after breakfast, and 3 hours after lunch, 3 hours after dinner. I have a better calorie burn than I had before. Now, why is that happening? Well, this is a muscle cell. And the reason I'm showing you a muscle cell is you've heard the people say your muscles are your calorie burners. Don't lose your muscle mass. That helps you burn calories. True enough. Well, this is a muscle cell, and inside it are mitochondria. You remember from your high school biology, mitochondria are the burners inside the cell. And if you have a lot of active mitochondria, you burn through calories pretty well. All right, but you have something else in your cell, fat. And if I'm eating chicken fat or beef fat or cheese fat, that fat starts building up inside the cell. Now, doctors hate words like fat, so they're going to call it intramyocellular lipid, but it's fat inside the muscle cell. Here's the problem. When fat builds up inside the cell, the body wants to save that fat. Let me make sure that you're with me on this. You're eating fat, the fat gets inside the muscle cell, and the muscle suddenly says, this is great. This is a calorie source, an energy source that I could have in the event that there's a famine in the future. And so in order to save the fat, the body reduces its production of mitochondria. So the fat in the cells slows down your after-meal calorie burn. And it does that because the big buildup of fat causes the mitochondria to be inactivated. Your body's producing less of them. So what's the answer? I go on a vegan diet. How much animal fat is left in my diet? None. And if I keep the oils really low too, here's what happens to that fat inside the cell. It starts to disappear. And as that disappears, getting fat out of your cells boosts your after-meal calorie burn. So why is it that vegans tend to be slimmer? Well, part of it is fiber. Fiber tricks the tricks the brain into thinking you've eaten a lot of food, when the truth is you've eaten a reasonable amount of food. And secondly, not only is your appetite controlled by fiber, but your metabolism is improved by getting the fat out of your cells. One more thing. Let's go back into the cell, and let's talk about diabetes. Okay, this is a muscle cell, and a muscle cell is powered by glucose. The glucose is on the outside of the cell, in the bloodstream, and to get in, I need insulin. The hormone insulin is like a key, and the key attaches to those red receptors, and as it does it, it signals these little channels to let the glucose inside. See that? That's the way the system is supposed to work. If you have diabetes, you've got glucose, you got insulin, you have those receptors, all that is totally normal. What's not normal is that black arrow, that signaling process is not working. Somehow the insulin key can't get that signal over to let the glucose in the cell. Why not? It's that fat again. That buildup of fat, that intramyocellular lipid, is stopping the insulin key from working. Think of it as chewing gum in the lock, gumming up the works. So on a plant-based diet, we're getting the fat out of the cell, and that improves insulin signaling. Our research team was funded by the National Institutes of Health to test a vegan diet for type 2 diabetes. Now, it was a vegan diet, but it was also a low-fat diet, so low oil, and a low GI diet. That means low glycemic index. In other words, instead of white bread, which might cause the blood pressure to go up pretty quick, we're going to choose rye bread or pumpernickel bread, which is more gentle on your blood sugar. Okay, for comparison, we used a control diet following the American Diabetes Association guidelines. And it was a 22-week study with a 1-year follow-up. And we had 99 participants. And what we track is something called hemoglobin A1c. Hemoglobin A1c is a test of blood sugar control. But if I just test your blood sugar, it goes up and down and up and down and up and down hour by hour. Hemoglobin A1c stays fairly stable. Your level measures, your A1c level reflects your blood sugar control over the preceding 3 months or so. So as you see on this chart, the red line is the people in the control group following the American Diabetes Association guidelines, limiting carbohydrate, limiting calories. They did okay. They had a drop of A1c by almost 0.4 points. That's good. The vegan group is the blue line. They had a drop of 1.2 absolute percentage points. That's huge. That's better than any of the oral diabetes drugs that we have. Now, this is Vance. Vance was a policeman. Vance's father was dead by age 30. Vance was diagnosed with diabetes when he was 31, came in to see us in his late 30s, and he started the vegan diet. Over about a year, he lost 60 pounds. His hemoglobin A1c dropped from 9.5, which is terrible, to 5.3, which is totally normal. And he had stopped his diabetes medications. In other words, a man on no medications with totally normal blood tests. I have to say we were quite unsure. Could we tell him you don't even have diabetes anymore? But we've become more and more comfortable with exactly that conclusion. All right, this is Nancy, same situation. She lost about 40 pounds over about a year. She stopped her diabetes medications. Her A1c dropped from 8.3 to 6.8. That's still in the diabetic range, but she did much, much better. So people who have diabetes and they start a plant-based diet, they improve, and in some cases their diabetes even goes away. But Nancy had another thing that occurred to her. She found that her arthritis improved. In fact, it essentially went away. Why is that? We see it quite commonly, and in this case, I think it's the dairy. Dairy products seem to irritate the body, if I could put it that way. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune condition where something is stimulating a reaction that causes inflammation inside the joints. And the principal trigger that we see reported most commonly is dairy. So on a vegan diet, there's no dairy anymore. People do very, very well. Now I'd like to talk to you about your car insurance. Okay, just kidding. This is Geico. Geico's headquarters are right over there, about 3 or 4 blocks away. They have 2,500 people working in that building. And back in 2006 and 2007, we were starting to talk with the health department over at Geico about doing a plant-based diet at work. So this might be good for health, might also be good for reducing medical costs. So we did it as a study. In Fredericksburg, Virginia, we checked everybody's weight. If they had diabetes, we checked their hemoglobin A1c. And here in the Washington, D.C. area, we checked the same things, except here, they had vegetarian foods in the cafeteria. Plus, once a week, they got a support group on how to go vegan. Now, for the cafeteria manager, this was a little bit new. It took a little while for them to figure out what a vegan diet actually means. All right. Anyway, they figured it out. They got the bacon and cheese out of there. And the people in Fredericksburg, Virginia, as you can imagine, didn't lose any weight. But the people here in the Washington, D.C. area who began the vegan diet lost weight very nicely. And so then we did a larger study in 10 different cities, whether it was Chevy Chase in Fredericksburg, but also Virginia Beach and Macon, Georgia, Dallas, Texas, Tucson, Arizona, and other cities around the country. And we showed exactly the same thing, that when you follow a plant-based diet, your weight drops, and if you have diabetes, your hemoglobin A1c improves too. So by now, it's not a question anymore. A plant-based diet, and by that I mean a low-fat vegan diet, is a great way to lose weight, reverse heart disease, get your diabetes under better control, or even prevent these problems if you don't have them yet. But I want to tell you something. In the Geico trial, our instructors would go over there every week and talk to the people, and they would give them support and instruction. And they would come back after the study and they would say, you know, the people at Geico are so enthusiastic, except for 2 of them. There are 2, they're named Hillary and Bruce, and they sit in the back and they just talk a lot. They don't seem to really pay any attention to the lectures. I wonder why they're here. And I kept hearing every week of our instructors talking about Hillary and Bruce, who seemed not to be very interested. Well, you know what? you can misjudge people. They did talk a lot, and they might have even been distracting, but what they were talking about was what they were going to pick up at the store on the way home, how they would convince her parents to go vegan with them, how they might have a vegan Thanksgiving for all their friends. And a year later, Bruce sent me these pictures. Hillary's lost 85 pounds. Bruce has lost 100 pounds. And as you can see, a plant-based diet is a terrific way to regain your health. Okay, this is a man named Jean Remy. He sent these pictures from Canada because he weighed about 320 pounds. He had pre-diabetes. He went on a plant-based diet, reading a book that I wrote about reversing diabetes. And it did not say to count carbohydrates or to reduce calories. What it said was get away from animal products and keep oils low. And by the time he got to chapter 4, he'd lost 160 pounds, and it revolutionized his life. This is Jenna, same story. She wanted to lose some weight, but she didn't do it by starving. She did it with a simple plant-based diet. She got her waistline back, got her confidence back, but more importantly, she got her health back. Now, this is Chicago. And what I wanted to mention is that it's not just your heart or your waistline or your risk of diabetes, but there also might be effects on brain function. The Chicago Health and Aging Project got started in 1993. They tracked a large group of people in Chicago, and they looked at what they ate. And then they looked at who stayed mentally clear and who succumbed to Alzheimer's disease. And the first foods that they started to key in on were things like bacon or dairy products or meat, because these are foods that are loaded with saturated fat. You know about saturated fat, bad fat. Well, dairy products are the leading source, but there's also plenty of it in meat. Now, some people in Chicago didn't eat very much saturated fat, maybe 13 grams a day. Some ate just about twice that. And when they looked at Alzheimer's risk, here's what they found. The high fat consumers, specifically saturated fat, had 2 or 3 times, maybe even more, a risk of Alzheimer's compared to those people who were eating a lot less saturated fat. They looked at trans fats and found much the same kind of thing. So the healthy diet, we believe, not just for your heart and your waistline, but also for the brain, is the power plate. Fruits, grains, legumes, vegetables. In 2009, we sent this to the U.S. government. We didn't hear back from them, so we filed a lawsuit against the U.S. government. Yes, that's right. The Physicians Committee sued the USDA. And in 2011, did you see what the USDA came up with? This is now government policy. It's called My Plate. Fruits, grains, vegetables, they have what they call a protein group, which could be meat, but it could also be beans or nuts or tofu or other high-protein foods from plant sources. There's a dairy group, but to their credit, they include soy milk. I'm not taking any of the credit for this, but it does look rather similar to what we sent them, doesn't it? So by now you might be thinking, okay, I get it. If I have heart disease, I'd like to reverse it. And if I don't have it, I want to prevent it. I'd like to lose weight or keep my slim waistline. If I've got diabetes or other health risks, I'd like to improve too. But how do I start? I want to share with you how we start a healthful diet in our patients and in people who are in our research studies. Here's what we do. Step 1, don't change your diet. Instead, just check out the possibilities. So what that means is think about the foods that I could have for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, for snacks, and we give patients a sheet of paper, and we ask them to take 7 days and write down foods in each category. So we're going to give you some suggestions. For breakfast, how about oatmeal? Flavor it up with cinnamon and raisins. How about blueberry pancakes? Instead of milk on my cereal, how about topping bran flakes with almond milk? Why not try the veggie sausage? So all we're doing for the first week is experimenting. We're checking out the possibilities. Then we're going to go for lunch. Have I ever had a pizza without cheese? No, I haven't. Let's try it. Let me try the vegetable chili. Let me try the bean burrito. I've never tasted a veggie burger. Now is the time to try it out. If I go to an Italian restaurant, I could have my angel hair pasta topped with not a meat sauce, but the vegan arrabbiata sauce. Instead of a meaty soup, I could have pasta e fagioli or minestrone or lentil soup or split pea. Okay. Mexican, skip the taco. I'm going to have the bean burrito instead, or the veggie fajitas, beans and rice. Easy. Chinese, even easier. They got lots of rice dishes, vegetable dishes, tofu dishes. Couldn't be simpler. Extra points for Japanese because they have many foods that are plant-based. Yes, you can have the cucumber sushi, asparagus sushi, sweet potato sushi, edamame, delightful, delicate salads, but they also tend to avoid excess oils. So it's very light cuisine. All right, let's say I'm going to the submarine sandwich place or the taco place. Will they make me vegan options? Absolutely. You can leave the cheese and meat off that submarine sandwich, and the people behind the taco bar, they're more than happy to leave out the cheese off your bean burrito. Very good. Okay, so wherever you're eating, you just choose the vegan option. So it's been a week. I've checked out the possibilities, and I know what I like. Step 2 is a 3-week test drive. So in the first week, I chose some healthy items for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, fast food, regular restaurant meals, whatever I like. Now I'm going to eat them. For 3 weeks, I'm going to eat the foods I already know that I like. So at the end of that time, people feel great and their tastes are starting to change. Now they've got power. For extra help, we encourage people to use our 21-day vegan kickstart. Every day for 21 days, we're going to send you an email that includes menus, recipes, cooking videos, and it makes it fun. We even have a message board where you can ask questions and get answers. We have lots of celebrities and athletes and doctors who are giving you tips. It comes with a free app, so all of this makes it so easy. It's in English, it's in Spanish, it's in Mandarin. We also have a Kickstart for people from the Indian subcontinent. It's English language, but Indian food. We also have it in Japanese. Let me say one word about a new project that we've begun. It's called the Barnard Medical Center. We started it here in Washington, D.C. because we wanted to develop a clinic where if a person comes in with diabetes, or they have a high cholesterol, or high blood pressure, or they want to lose weight, we're not going to instantly throw them a pill because these problems are caused by food. And we want people to learn healthy ways of eating. So yes, we have medicines if you need them, but why not start with a rethink of your diet? So people come in. If you've got a urinary tract infection or if you've got a twisted ankle, we're not going to tell you should be eating asparagus. You need antibiotics for that urinary tract infection. You probably need your ankle taped or you might need an x-ray. We'll do all of that for you. But before you leave, we're going to say, why don't you make an appointment for when you're feeling better to come and talk to the dietitian. We'll have a look at your diet too. Or if a person comes in with a condition that's caused by food, you've got diabetes, we're going to start there. If you have medications, we'll manage all of that, or we'll start them if we need to. But on the other hand, I would really like you to jump in and visit with one of our 4 registered dietitians. And then we have weekly groups that you can participate in forever. And our patients love it, and our doctors love it. Because instead of feeling like they're just running a pill factory, what they're doing is tackling the cause of disease and helping people to get better. So let me stop by just saying this. I know you've been listening to presentation from other experts. And by now people will often say, you know, it's true that healthy eating is so powerful. But the country that we live in and the other countries that we visit, we're really worried that we're seeing just the opposite. People are eating in ways that are so unhealthful. Can we win this battle? Well, the answer is yes, we can win. And the reason I know that is we've been here before. A generation ago, about 30 years ago, I was sitting in my hospital, the George Washington University Hospital, and we're having a discussion about cigarettes. The question was, could we ban smoking in the hospital? Because the truth is, we sold cigarettes in the gift shop, and I bought them. I bought cigarettes. My head of surgery bought cigarettes. We would smoke them walking down to the doctor's lounge, and when we walked into the doctor's lounge, you had to wave your arms to get away from the smoke. It was unbelievable. And our patients could smoke in bed. The medical students all smoked. Now, we weren't stupid. We knew that cigarettes caused cancer, but we also knew that it takes time to get cancer. So the idea was, I'm smoking now, I'm under stress, but I'll quit. And then when you quit, you'll be all right. Well, at some point, we realized the time is now. We got to stop this now. We've got to stop smoking in the hospital, stop selling cigarettes in the gift shop. We've got to stop it in our own lives. And that's what we did. And inside of about 2 weeks, we knew we were right. And every other hospital has done the same thing. And every other business, every restaurant, every airline, they've all stopped smoking. They don't allow it anymore. And now it can be a cold day in Washington, D.C. And some February morning, there's a guy standing outside in his shirt sleeves. He's having the last drag on his cigarette before he goes into his non-smoking building. Well, that's where we are now with food. We know we've got a problem, but we think, well, I don't know, food tastes so good. Hospitals and other places are selling unhealthy food. Restaurants sell unhealthy food. People make it at home. But you know what? Even though we know that something is wrong and we've got to change things because the next generation is otherwise condemned to obesity and diabetes and heart disease, you know what? The time to change is now. Time's up. So the way to start is not with a moralistic discussion about how wrong we've been, but rather having fun with this. That when we look at the vegan options, they're delicious, they're great. You can go into the health food store. You know, a generation ago, there were dingy, dark places playing folk music, and the cashier was named Sunshine. They had a few things, and, you know, you just want to kill yourself in a place like that. Well, today, health food stores are huge. They've got so many wonderful products, and people are buying them. And restaurants are now featuring vegan and vegetarian options. There are all kinds of websites, there are all kinds of books, there are materials for you, and you can have fun with this. So when you find a vegan recipe, a vegan product, a book, a website, a DVD, share it around and have fun with it. It's empowering. And I predict that one day in the not too distant future, it'll be some cold February morning here in Washington, D.C., and there will be some guy in his shirt sleeves shivering outside his building, having the last little bite of his chicken wing before he's allowed into his vegan building. And that's the day that I want to see come soon. Thanks very much.